and you're not sneaking Shavers on any more practice squads. 31 other GMs just saw a guy ball out. There are a lot of teams that have bad wide receiver rooms that would take a flyer on that guy.
I don't like to fall like in that spot of loving some young wide receiver who made a few catches, but this kid, I just think is different.
I was going to say, how about a diet Mac Hollins?
All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus channel, presented by Connors and Ferris, Mike Catalana, and Dan Fates. I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. The Bills wrapping up the preseason in Tampa. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about what stood out to us, some injury updates as well, and where the Bills stand now. But Mike, I want to start with you.
Yeah.
The things that stood out about the game. There's one thing in particular I think you're going to start with.
Tyrell SHAVERS deserves to be on the roster. He is one of their 5 best wide receivers. He is a cost-controlled guy. Put him on the roster. That's my take.
Dan?
Could I be sarcastic for like just a second?
Permission
to be. Yeah. Bean still doesn't get credit for drafting him. Like he was undrafted. He's like their best, most productive, one of their best, most productive young wide receivers, and Bean doesn't get credit for it because he was undrafted. That's just how he has been. I think I said it throughout the training camp. It wasn't just this preseason, this training camp that he, looked really good. It was also now you have 2 years of 2 strong training camps. He's earned this spot. I'd be shocked if he doesn't make this 53-man roster. And that catch was a massive statement. I remember before the first preseason game, Shavers talks about how much he knew these next few weeks were the most important weeks of his life. And to see that reaction, the catch, the emotion of him going to the sidelines, the entire team meeting him like halfway on the field, all of that was just a really cool moment for a young player.
I thought, the pressure was on. Like coming into this game, what's at stake. Like you are trying to make a lasting impression. You're trying to make it a positive one. The moment. And look, is this moment the same as a game against the Ravens in a couple weeks? No, but there are levels to this. And this was a huge opportunity for him to show up. And to bring in that ball was just incredible. And I loved the sideline reaction because I think that was so emblematic of a guy that they have been rooting for, that they've seen Sean McDermott talking about a true professional. Like these are words that you don't hear often. So to see a player put in the work, to see him have to be patient, and then when he has the opportunity, make a huge play it's just awesome.
You know what else I was thinking about is, they do say things and they believe them in this organization, like the draft, develop and re-sign and all that. When a guy does what Shavers has done, at some point he needs to be rewarded. I mean, we are not talking about him making the team as a 4th quarterback here. Like we are talking about a position that could use somebody with a little different skill set. He's a bigger player. He will go get it. He can run down the field. He can play on the outside. He has shown, I'm watching him. Special teams were not great tonight. I know it's a little wild in the last preseason game, but he did make a play. Dan, I don't think he looked enthusiastic making that tackle when the guy broke loose, but he got there and he got him out of bounds. So that's what you need out of him. But I think a guy like that who has done everything you want needs to be rewarded to show the team that if you do that, you can be on this roster.
Mike, it's like we talk about the locker room looks around and sees who gets paid.
Yep.
At this point, they look around the locker room and say who earned the 53-man spot. Like Tyrell SHAVERS, I don't know what more else you would want for him. And Mike, I thought he was fine on special teams. For me, I was just happy to see him out there.
I agree.
Because that was the test. Because I think somebody had talked to me about it and that he'd only played like 2 or 3 special team snaps in the first 2 games. And it's like, hey, if you're going to be that 5th wide receiver, you're going to have to do it. Mike, I think you talked to him when he did it in college. And he's like, yeah, like I'll do it. I know I have to do it. It's important. So to see him out there, Tasker said he missed contain. It was Laviska Shenault that missed contain. Shavers came from the other side of the field to make a tackle. Then he was involved in the tackle on the kickoff after his touchdown. Like, yeah, you're right, Mike. He's not Tasker on special teams, but at least he was there. And it was something that I could say, hey, you know, I don't know what other guys really brings. You have to be elite to just be a special teamer, but for
Right.
him to be able to be serviceable is a big feather in the cap for making the 53.
And Jenna, what I was going to say to you, and you started to mention it, I don't care who that catch was against. That wasn't
No.
even about any other player on the field.
Yeah.
That was a guy making an elite play,
Yeah.
right? I
Truly.
mean, that's what it was.
It was very cool to see. Like that is, I mean, we should set the table that like roster cut down day is coming up on Tuesday. The rosters have to be cut down to 53 guys by 1 p.m. And of course, we'll have our updates as we get closer to that. But who else in terms of stood out to you? Do we want to start offensively then? Because actually, Dan, I want to ask you about Elijah Moore and what you saw.
What was there to see? I'm still at this point where I looked at Elijah Moore the same way I looked at the Laviska Shenault signing, where I went, okay, he's got to do a lot, in my opinion, because third team in 5 years. I've talked about it several times. He had a drop on third down again. It would have been a tough catch. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And for this talk of, well, Elijah Moore should get to play with Josh. And, you know, you have to earn that. Like,
don't you feel like they want Elijah Moore to make the team?
Yes.
I'm with you, Jenna. I think they really want Elijah Moore. And let me ask you this, while we're talking about him, Curtis Samuel illness.
Well, it must be going around because they were saying Robbins is under the weather.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm saying is like, listen,
tough,
it's a tough job, but if Beane can swing a deal, like some guys who are not very good with a decent amount of money on their contracts got traded. I think if you really want to move Curtis Samuel and then you keep Elijah Moore, that's fine. That's different. That's $4 million less. Even if you got to bite the bullet on a little bit of Curtis Samuel's contract, maybe you have to do that. But that guy is not earned anything in Orchard Park. Couple of nice plays at the end of the year. Curtis Samuel.
He's on a contract.
Right. That's why I'm saying is when you talk about guys earning their spot, he has not done that. And if it's just for the money and you're in that bad a shape, that would be a shame because he certainly hasn't done anything to warrant a 53-man spot.
I have a question, Dan, before you go. Mike, do you think that Curtis Samuel has more of a runway because of the contract and what he showed at the end of last season compared to Elijah Moore?
I think he has more of a runway because of the money. I think it's strictly because of the contract. And that's maybe not fair. And the guy does have a history in this league of being a good player, which my hope for the Bills is that other teams recognize that. Like, seriously, like, I don't know what's going on in Washington. You know, there are places where they're still looking for receivers, and these are guys who have played. It has not worked out in Buffalo. Maybe you can get somebody to bite on that with a contract. But I guess you're right. He did make a couple of plays late in the year, and he made it in the Kansas City game, and maybe they hold on to that. But I put it to you this way. If he was $2.5 million, not 6 point whatever it is for this year, I don't think he'd be on the roster. I think that runway would be gone. Dan, what do you agree or disagree?
Well, you said, like, what has he proven in Orchard Park? And I'm sitting here going, what has Elijah Moore proven? Like, what has he done throughout the entire training camp? And it's not just the games. Like, I'm not just looking at that. I'm talking about he catches passes in warmups a lot of times from Buechele and Trubisky. Like, you have to earn first team snaps.
He has gotten, though, a decent amount of snaps with Josh in practice. Jenna, that's why
everybody's been injured. It hasn't been because he's earned it.
That might be the case, but he's had a decent amount out there.
Gosnell's got snaps with Josh Allen.
Yes.
Okay, it's not. They're so banged up at the wide receiver position that it's not like when he did get the reps, you're like, oh, he had a great practice and 3 good catches, so now he's earned more. Like Jimmy Charlo is a guy that has earned more. I don't understand. And they talked about on the broadcast, and they go, Elijah Moore has a pedigree in this league. Doing what? Getting bounced off bad offenses and complaining about the quarterback play?
Listen, I am a recovering preseason football broadcaster. Okay. It's a different world I was part of the team broadcast for 20 years. It's a different world. No one sits there and sort of tells you you're going to talk about this, but they do stress the positive. Like, listen, I heard that about Elijah Moore. I don't think he had. Listen, he's had a couple of seasons where he's had a lot of targets with bad quarterbacks. So if you want to make a point for him, you can. But they were also talking about Steve Buechele, like, they love him, and he's just saying, I mean, come on, Steve Buechele's the fourth quarterback. And I don't mean to be a jerk. Like, the guy is an accomplished athlete, and I'm just some schlub here. But
you're telling on yourself. They're talking about Elijah Moore the same way they talk about Steve Buechele. You're telling on yourself.
Shane Buechele. Shane Buechele.
Oh, Shane. Yeah, I called him Steve. God, he's another white Steve.
Steve Buscemi. I mean, Shane Buscemi.
You hammered his name like 7 times.
I know. I was just fired up because I heard them talking about him. I'm like, fellas, come on. Like, he's the fourth quarterback. Maybe he'll be on the practice squad if Mike White gets picked up by somebody. But you got to be honest with people. Like, I'm glad he kind of balled out a little bit. I'm glad he made those plays before half. But no, he's not playing in a game. Like, it's not happening. He's the practice squad quarterback. So sometimes they do go a little overboard in these games, and you have to just take it for what it is. But Elijah Moore does have at least, he's had over 100 targets in NFL seasons, like, even with bad teams. That is something in this league. I just don't think he's shown enough for this team, Jenna.
Okay, so if Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore had the exact same contract, Mike, you would say keep Elijah Moore.
I think they would keep Elijah Moore.
Okay. I feel like, to me, I know Curtis Samuel has been so injured and all this stuff, but I've seen more from Curtis Samuel than I have seen from Elijah Moore. Now, obviously, Curtis Samuel had more opportunities because he's been with the team longer.
Yeah.
And with his contract, I agree. I think that they are going to hang on to him just because of the money piece. But I've been surprised, not in a good way, with how
invisible
it's felt like between Elijah Moore and this offense. Maybe.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Okay. No. Let's go to KJ Hamler.
Well, KJ
I thought he had
made some plays. I know who it's against, but at least I see something there. It would be better if he honestly was in the return game, and I guess he still has a chance. That would be helpful. It's wild. Like, I was listening to Joe Biscaglia's podcast, and Joe does a really good job. And he was talking about how, special teams. And I know it's easy to go, oh, everybody talks about special teams, but somebody's got to play those. And he was like, yeah, none of the D tackles play special teams. And you say, okay, but there's spots there to be played. And then none of the wide receivers really play special teams. And you're like, well, who the hell is playing all these special team snaps? Like, that's where there's a flaw in the roster. So to Dan's point, like, that's where you need a guy who can go out there on the field and play in those spots. It doesn't mean he's a superstar, but you need players who can go and do it. Curtis Samuel's not playing special teams. And let's be honest, what is he? Is he the fourth receiver? Is he the fifth receiver? And he's not playing special teams. And to be honest with you, Dan, I don't see a great role for him this year in the offense. I saw it last year, obviously, going into the year. I don't see it this year.
It's the same offense. I think that what we saw in the playoffs, he could be, hopefully you see that over a bigger sample size because he was so injured last year. It sucks. I'm also a guy that is just in way over his head in Curtis Samuel stock, and just have never been a guy that's liked Elijah Moore, and from the minute they signed him. To your point about the roster construction, this is always the time that we love to say, is it 5 or 6 wide receivers?
Yeah.
I think in a perfect world, the Bills would love to keep 6 wide receivers. Every team would. More weapons, all of this stuff. But they are so thin and so injured at linebacker and defensive backs. I don't think they can afford to have 6 wide receivers. And like you talk about the point, I think Jimmy Charlo makes the team.
Yeah.
because he's a core special teams guy that can add depth at safety if you're in a terrible pinch, at linebacker, because you are right, Mike. Like, you need some of these guys that their main role is special teams, and then they're serviceable as a backup. Joe Andreessen's a perfect example. Hawes, the rookie tight end, he's going to play teams. Gilliam, like, these are guys that are absolutely crucial to special teams, and they can pitch in with, and have a cup of coffee in a couple of plays and formations on other sides of the ball.
I'm shocked by how passionate, Mike, you are about this. Like, you seem really fired up about it.
No,
is this
only
because Curtis
because
Samuel burned you last year? This is just personal.
I'm not fired. I'm saying there is a point where they have to. I know he has to be trying to trade him. He has to be.
Not in the building.
Because they get. By the way, speaking of that, you know who joins us on Tuesday? Because I heard this referenced, is Ogunjobi and Hoyt. It says they are not in the building starting on Tuesday. So it's like we're suspended players because we're not. Just the way they phrased it, I was laughing because they said they cannot be in the building as of Tuesday. And I'm like, well, that's like us. I'm only saying this, Jenna, because when I watch a guy like Tyrell Shavers go out and do this, and I'm like, that dude deserves that spot. And listen, I know the reality of the money, and we talk about the cap not being real, but we also know when it is real. It's real when you make mistakes on players. And listen, if I thought Curtis Samuel was just overpaid because he's making more than he should, that's one thing. I haven't seen him out there. I haven't seen him be healthy. And I know he's coming back and all those things. I do wonder how they're going to play it. He may very well end up on the 53-man roster because they can't move on from him and they don't want to take that hit, and somebody else goes on the practice squad. I guess I'm just looking at it like I want to see guys earn those spots and bring something else to the table that he did not.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I just know you get fired up when you say listen a lot. Like, that's when I know you're like really passionate. So that's why I was like,
you know what else I was going to say? I tweeted it a minute ago. There are ways to manipulate some of this stuff in the roster. And Dan mentioned Jimmy Charlo. And I thought Jimmy Charlo's the kind of guy, if you cut him, somebody very well might pick him up because they know they can plug him right in to be a special teams guy.
Yep.
And I think I said, follow me here. Dane Jackson could start week 1 getting elevated off the practice squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see it? I see that path where they go, we cut Dane. He's coming back. They put him on the practice squad. They elevate him for the first 2 weeks. Trey, maybe whether he's there or they need the backup, whatever it is, maybe they decide not to put Max on the IR. I still think he's going to go on it.
Same.
But maybe they decide not to, and he's available. I heard them say on the broadcast that Bean said maybe week 3, but even that, he's not practiced enough. But this is where I'm saying this is where the rosters are different. And a player like Dane, who knows the system, if you got to put him out there, can play, but he could come off the practice squad. No one, I don't think anybody is picking Dane up and putting him on their 53.
Agreed.
But a guy like Jimmy Charlo, or they're not going to do it. If Joe Andreessen got cut, somebody's picking him up to do nothing else than play special teams.
Yeah.
And you're not sneaking Shavers on any more practice squads.
No.
I think you're right.
31 other GMs just saw a guy ball out, and all of a sudden it raised a lot of eyebrows. There are a lot of teams that have bad wide receiver rooms that would take a flyer on that guy.
Yeah. No, I think I could definitely see how they came. All right, let's talk defense a little bit.
Yeah.
Cole Bishop, obviously out there. Thought he had a couple nice plays. Like, I think for him, it's been just time on task and getting up to date with all that stuff. Obviously, DeMar Hamlin out there as well. Dan, what did you see from Cole tonight?
Much better. I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't, again, we talk about score doesn't matter, team stats don't matter, but the reps do matter for a lot of these guys. And people talking before the game on Buffalo Kickoff Live and was kind of saying that they're still trying to ramp up Cole Bishop and kind of defending his play from last week. I didn't love hearing that. Like, I do want some ownership when it wasn't a good play and to just kind of address that. But I saw a guy that anticipated better today, filled in the run more, had a nice pass breakup on third down. It was encouraging to see a guy bounce back from a really bad game, in my opinion, in Chicago, to have a much stronger game for a young player. Bobby Babich talks about it, and he kind of said that about Cole when we were talking to him earlier this week, that you learn from failure, that the scars are how you learn when you look in the mirror. I liked seeing the fact that he had a better performance and bounced back after that tough game.
I'm with you. I saw one play where you saw him run through the ball carrier. Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see him attack in the secondary. He's an athlete. He needs to play like it. And I don't know if you remember the play. It was like it was a dump off. He wasn't in coverage.
Yep.
He came running up, and you see him fly into the play. That's what I wanted to see.
Physicality.
Listen, yes. I also heard, again, I go back to the broadcast, and I understand how it works. And they talk to Brandon, it's fine. And some of it is sort of team talk. But he's like, you know, Bills fans need to have some patience because we were spoiled by Poyer and Hyde. I get that. I don't give a shit about that right now. It is week 1 is coming against the Ravens. You can say that for the long term. In the short term, like, you cannot be saying, well, you got to expect more out of the guy. It has to be better. Like, he's going to start against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not saying he needs to be Micah Hyde, but I'm saying is, I don't want to hear that we're spoiled. Yes, you're spoiled by that. At some point, there's going to be another guy playing quarterback for the Bills. He ain't going to be Josh Allen, but he could still be good. And Cole Bishop needs to be better. There's a lot of space between what we saw last week and what Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer are.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear that part of it. They know he needs to be better too, especially if he's going to start. And to Jenna's point, he looked better. He looked athletic. That's what I want to see. I want to see him playing that way. If he makes a mistake playing that way, I'm fine with it. It's just the week before he looked tentative. And in fairness, because he was hurt, he hadn't had that many snaps. But I want to see more of that because I think, are we in agreement here? He's starting against the Ravens, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
I think tonight you saw him. It was his presence as opposed to like being a part of the play. Do you know what I mean? Like, he made his impact felt as opposed to the play happening to him. And that's what I wanted to see. Because I just feel like he looks so tentative out there sometimes, where you're like, hey man, you got to make a play. Like, he played with more violence, and that's what I've wanted. So that was a positive. Deone Walker.
Talk about playing with some violence. Talking about having his presence felt. Deone Walker had himself a night. It was awesome to see. It was not only now, again, there were some bad plays too. One play, he got pushed like 5 yards back at the goal line on like the 3rd and 2. And you're like, yep, young player. But again, he also has this ability to destroy games from the interior, and his size and his ability to, his swim moves are so smooth for a guy that's 6'7", 340. Like, that's special.
That's a good point, Dan, because, you know, sometimes I think people thought you were getting, because he's big, you were getting some space eater, you know, Sam Adams type, Pat Williams type guy. That's not who he is. He is a big athlete.
Yep.
He is a more athletic player than it is just big guy that takes on space. And that was good. On the one play where there was a little bit of miscommunication in the backfield by Tampa, he had made the play. Like, he got in there, and it wasn't like everything fell apart and then he was just there to make the play. So he also had a good pass rush on another play with Ogunjobi. They both got in there. So I love seeing these guys flash a little bit. If nothing else, it gives them confidence, because I mentioned the other guys like Ogunjobi and Hoyt are going to be, you know, not on the 53.
Yeah.
Which I guess technically could be a plus at the moment, though you'd want him on the 53.
Yeah.
But it does give these other guys more of an opportunity to go out there and play. So I'm with you on that. And Buffalo Joe was better tonight. He had a rough game. He was much better tonight.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. What about Zach Davidson out there, my golfing buddy? That was
The
cool.
punter.
That was cool.
Dan, you had a hell of a game punting the ball.
Yeah. And I could take a punch.
Yeah. That was Dion's kid, right?
Yeah. Shiloh.
Yeah. He got tossed. Yeah, I did not. Did you guys know? I guess he's been a punter before, right? So
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what he
it's
went to college for.
I wasn't really thinking. I would think in a normal game, maybe Bass would punt, right? Have they had that? Has Bass ever punted?
I don't think so.
Could you imagine him out? I mean,
Josh
This is
has to
his
be able to
punt.
punt the ball. Josh probably can punt the ball, right?
Yeah,
Probably.
celebrations are great. When he punts it.
Actually, he had one at practice the other day. He whiffed
Whiff.
on it.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
totally whiffed on a punt.
that's funny.
Yeah.
No, that was like peak preseason game number 3.
Yeah.
Fun. Like it was cool though to see the guys all jazzed up for him, and it was a pretty good punt. I mean, I know obviously in college he had that experience, but still, like obviously probably pretty rusty. So to see that was cool.
Go ahead, Dan.
I've never done this before, but we had some time. I actually did a 53.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? I was going to do that tonight, and I thought Dan was going to be like, well, I didn't, I'm not putting together my own. Go ahead. Let's hear your 53. Now you don't have to do all of them, but like the key moments.
You're going to
Josh
keep
Allen.
bingo. The plus side is that the Bills will only keep 3 running backs, whichever. I mean, I guess I considered Gilliam as a tight end, like just for the sake of doing that.
Yeah.
They're going to be, it's interesting what they're going to do with like the 8th and 9th offensive linemen. We've talked about, I think on the sidelines, like, do you pick up somebody to help for the interior? It's always what would happen in case of Alec Anderson or what would happen in the case of Connor McGovern going down at center? Who would come in there to be it, because Alec Anderson had not really had a good week or two at center because they've kind of moved him around. I think you keep 6 linebackers because, listen, also week 1, do they go out with 3 linebackers? Do they play more of a 4-3 against the Ravens and try and stop?
They certainly could.
So again,
who's your 6 linebackers?
Milano, Bernard, Dorian, Buffalo Joe, Shaq Thompson, and Charlo.
Yeah, because Olafocio's getting cut, right?
Yeah, Olafocio's getting cut.
What do you have for Dwayne Carter? I know that's not a linebacker, but okay.
No, I have him make 5 defensive tackles: Oliver, Daquan, TJ Sanders, Walker, and Carter.
Carter's an interesting one in terms of, I always think about teams that scouted a guy. He's young in his career. They liked him. Hasn't worked out for different reasons. Is there a trade value there? But he's on a rookie deal as a 3rd-round pick, and I don't think they want to give up on a guy that quickly. But let's see how it plays out, especially early without like Ogunjobi there.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think he's probably going to be around. I'll be curious if they make it. One thing Bean does a lot of is he's made deals with offensive linemen.
Yeah.
He could trade an O lineman. I do think Van Pran Granger could be back soon.
Yeah, he might be an IR for the first 4 weeks.
He could be, but he could also be back. I mean, I think he was getting,
because I have the 5 starters: Alec Anderson. They love Tylen Grable.
Yep.
I have Vandemark and Lunt. So that's my
Vandemark,
9.
I'm gonna go back to Joe Biscaglia because his suggestion was that maybe Vandemark could be a tradable commodity.
Sure.
He doesn't really play much more than the left tackle spot, and he has not had a great preseason or camp. Depending on what they're looking at there. You know this, Dan. We always talk about it, Jenna. If you're not a starter, you need versatility. You got to be able to play both tackle spots, or you got to be able to play guard and center.
But it's so funny too, because 6 months ago, whenever that game was against Kansas City, Vandemark was phenomenal at right tackle.
Yeah.
And then I had 8 defensive backs, and that's with Max on the IR to start. So Benford,
who's your 8?
Benford, Trey, Taryn, Dorian Strong, Dane Jackson, Marcus Ingram, Cam Lewis, Jordan Hancock.
Yeah. And I guess my only thought is if Max is not on IR, I really do think they could release Dane and bring him back.
Yeah.
That would be, I think that's a very workable thing.
We'll see.
And yeah.
But yeah, my big takeaways from tonight were Tyrell Shavers, just amazing moment. Deone Walker imposing his will, taking the game over, and positivity and encouraging signs from Cole Bishop.
How many wide receivers do you have on your 53?
5.
Yeah.
I don't have Elijah Moore. I haven't had Elijah Moore on my 53.
That's
he had
fair.
to earn it. He had to earn it, and I never thought he earned it. And I always thought Shavers was the de facto 5-6. It was a matter of, do you keep it? And I think he's the clear 5. And
I don't like to fall like in that spot of loving some young wide receiver who made a few catches. But this kid, I just think is different. I think he's different. And I think he could become a good player for them. I really do. And I like the fact that he can play multiple spots. I honestly, I think he can be a little bit like Gabe was as a rookie. I really think he could do those things and play he can play slot. He can play on the inside. He can play the X and the Y. I'm not saying he's a star, but I like the versatility. And if he can play any teams, I want him on this team.
I was going to say, how about a diet Mac Hollins? Like, you don't have to be that impactful, but to be serviceable in special teams and then be a possible down the field threat that can make a few plays. And who knows what happens, because nobody thought Mac would have the impact that he was going to have offensively when they signed him. Tyrell Shavers, Mac Hollins light.
Well,
Diet Mac Hollins.
Diet Mac.
Diet Mac. Not so big Mac, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Whopper Jr.
But Mac, funny, as a veteran, he was not great catching the ball early.
No.
And then he dropped a few, and then he got going. So I don't know. We'll see. I still think, honestly, I think Beane's going to be active at the deadline. I don't know if that means trades, moving players. And I don't think it's great that they're this tight on the cap. I know we always talk about the cap, but you need some flexibility at this time. And some of that comes, honestly, from being stuck with some contracts of guys who just haven't performed at the level you hope they were, and some draft picks that have not performed at the level you hope they would. And so you get stuck with bigger contracts, and it's hurt you against the cap. So let's see how it plays out.
Okay,
bigger caps hits that players haven't performed. The first thing that comes to my mind is Daquan Jones.
I just don't think Daquan's going anywhere.
I don't think so either.
He is not going anywhere, but he is not worth. His production will not equal what he's going to get paid this year.
It's really interesting, Jenna. I was also thinking of Ogunjobi.
Mm-hmm.
I think by the time we get to week 6, unless there's injuries, I don't think he's on the roster.
That would be something.
I think they could just cut him loose.
Yep.
So let's see.
Okay.
There's a lot can happen between now and then.
Yes. Wanted to touch on the injuries really quickly. You mentioned Max Hairston, Brandon Beane talking during the broadcast, saying that they're figuring out if he's a potential IR candidate in terms of would miss the first 4 games of the season. It's looking like week 3 he could possibly come back. They have to decide about that. And then, Dan, do you want to give the Trey White update?
Yeah, Brandon Beane spoke like a hockey coach. It was a lower leg injury, and we'll see next week what the timeline is. So it was, take that how you will, but it was as vague as can be. If you want to say that's concerning, okay. If you want to say it's lower leg, like, hey, we'll see where it is, and you think that's positive, fine. But it was very hockey injury-esque. The fact of just, it's something down there, and we'll see in a little bit.
Lower body.
Yeah,
lower body.
They love that.
Listen, I want Max to be back because I think he can add something, but I don't know if he's coming back in 2 weeks, and then you expect him to play week 3 and 4. Maybe they just want him out there so they can get him on the field earlier if he's healthy. But that would be interesting, trying to manipulate this roster if they don't put him on the IR to bring him back. So So let's see. I mean, we might be the case. He might be on the roster week 3, getting snaps, getting on the field, and then ramping his way up, while he's out there. So let's see how that plays out.
Okay.
Quarterback wise, what do they do?
They cut them both. And if Mike White can come back as practice squad, Shane Buechele doesn't. If Mike White gets picked up by another team, Shane Buechele's the practice squad quarterback.
It's Shane, Dan. Just make sure you got that right.
Yeah.
Steve.
And then he was so confident saying with it, I just ran with it. I was like, well, I must be wrong.
Well, that's why I was like, Mike has said listen like 8 times today. He's yelling Steve when it's Shane. I'm like, this man was fired up. I can tell.
I was fired up.
Samuel burned you. That's why.
I was fired up I was at the Fairport Music Festival tonight doing some, I guess, beer tending, we'll call it, because it was just handing out cans of beer, and a lot of money goes to Children's Hospital, and a lot of Buffalo Plus people. I just want to mention Steve, Bruce.
No, his name's not Steve.
Are you sure it's Steve?
Steve, it was different Steve. Bruce, well, there's a lot of Steves. Bruce, Chuck, and Pam were awesome. They were awesome. And Dr. Jill Halderman, who is the head of the Children's Hospital, is a big Buffalo Plus fan. Oh. So we thank Dr. Jill. So it was good. And I had a woman come up to me and say, it's Mike Catalana, my second favorite sportscaster. And I was like, okay. She goes, oh, Jenna is number 1.
Oh my gosh. Did you get her name? What was her name?
I don't know. She wasn't very, she's lost. No, she's very sweet. She's very nice, very sweet. So
I love that.
Dan, sorry, she didn't mention it was all Jenna. I was like, oh, Jenna.
Jenna. I love that.
I meant to mention this a few weeks ago. And I'm really bad with names, as you can tell, going back to
Steve.
I was looking for a Deone Walker thing, and it was Dwayne. I just kept saying, I found that clip again. But my wife, the family was out getting ice cream outside of Lulu's in Fairport like 2 weeks ago, and we're just sitting there eating ice cream as Ryan is just smearing it all over her face, and we're just trying to we look like a hot mess. And this woman's getting takeout from Lulu's, the taco place next to us, and she comes up and she's like, I think she's gonna say something about the kids. Oh, you have beautiful daughters. Oh, and she's like, you're Dan. And I was like, yeah. She's like, my husband's going to be so mad that he didn't come and pick up the food because we are such big Buffalo Plus fans.
Oh, so, very nice.
I think it was Sarah. But
you gotta write it down.
I know. I did. Wrote them down. That's why I got Buechele right.
Yeah. But if you were picking up food 2 weeks ago at Lulu's and saw me, I appreciate it, and tell your husband we said hi.
Love it. Love our Buffalo Plus fam.
One other quick thing I wanted to mention. We are going back to Victor the first week of September. Thirsty Turtle. We have a whole list, Jenna. We're going to take this show on the road. Yes. We have some appearances. We'll give you the whole schedule. But the first one, live at the Thirsty Turtle in Victor on the opening night of the NFL season, Thursday, September the 4th. We'll be there from 5 o'clock on. Jenna will be signing autographs. Dan and I will be standing in the background. And then we're going to do the podcast at 7. So
it's the Buffalo Plus tour.
It is.
We're going to have a Buffalo Plus tour.
The show on the road. That's it.
T-shirts and everything. It's the Eras tour, part Buffalo Plus.
Yeah, minus a billion people. But yes, thank you so much. We'll have more information about that stuff because honestly, some very exciting Buffalo Plus stuff happening coming up. So we really appreciate everyone's support. All right, for Mike and Dan, I am Jenna. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. The Bills will have their cut down day coming up. We'll have plenty of coverage as we lead into that. And then, gentlemen, week 1 is the next thing coming up. And that is what me
to see who will host the AFC Championship game. Let's not overreact, guys.
Who will decide the 1 seed in week 1?
You know who it's going to be? Steve Buechele.
Steve Buscemi. Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll catch you next time here on Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris.